All right, so we should be live. As always, since I always decide to go a couple, I'm going a couple of weeks in between time now. Just always make sure if you have any questions or anything that's going on that you want to talk about, don't hesitate to put a question in the chat box. We are currently doing this on YouTube only. We are no longer streaming live on TikTok. So if anybody tunes in from TikTok, you can find us through there. That'll be the best way to find us. But basically, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going over filing for a disability claim as a workshop. Just going over the some of the nuances that are within that to basically make sure that we can provide information and provide the necessary stuff. What up, Dr. Vital? We are also on Twitch. I think Kick might let us do it also, so we might be streaming on them on there also. So we're on all multiple platforms basically to give a workshop for veterans, a free workshop for veterans to understand the necessity and the disability claim. But since we are currently in a government shutdown, I also wanted to go over the certain things that are being impacted, what can be impacted and won't be impacted during this government shutdown. Because with the government shutdown, there are certain things that can be affected and will be affected during this time period, as we don't know when this government shutdown will end or when it will decide to take place or end or whatever the criteria is. There's a lot of blame on each side. Either way, still see it as it's still Congress and they're still not doing their job of representing the people that they allow to shut down. But that's a whole different conversation. So we'll try to stay away from that. If you haven't followed us on our other page, that's where we have most of these political talks and stuff like that. So we'll be trying to concern ourselves mostly just with veteran assistance and veteran help. We have been working in the background on doing things. We're still working on the websites, working on a bunch of PowerPoint presentations that'll be used as seminars. These seminars will be included in our workshops basically, but these will be the free ones that we do once a month. The first Sunday of every month is where we will take part in making sure that you can receive a free workshop. So these are the best ones where you can tune in, ask the questions that you need to, or deal with the situation as best you can, basically to get your questions in, and I will make sure to guide you and assist you in the best way possible. We'll always try to have a topic of concern, something that is necessary for most veterans, and the biggest thing that happens is the issue with veterans not knowing how to correctly file their disability claims. One thing I wanted to touch on that I will say pisses me off about the veteran community at one time, and I know some people may take this lightly or not, don't give a shit at the same time. All these other content creators that are trying to sell you a Nexus letter, that they are trying to sell you their program, that they're trying to sell you all these things. Look at all the instances of all these content creators and all these people that were telling you that in August, the changes were gonna happen. Making you go crazy, making you have an extra, I just realized I do have this on here. Let me put this down. Just having all these instances where now you can see I have the chat here, so now you can see the chat on there. So that's there. We'll try to put it somewhere where it can be seen, but not too visible. Probably over here. But that's the one thing where a lot of veterans were being told basically like, hey, you have to make sure to file. There's going to be changes. There's going to be changes to your mental health. There's going to be changes to sleep apnea. There's going to be changes to tinnitus. And the thing is a lot of veterans were put and gaslit into believing these things, to believing that all these changes was going to happen. It's now October 5th. These changes still haven't happened. But you had veterans that were just gaslighting them into believing in this stuff and stuff like that. All this information is free. All the information you need is free. All the knowledge you can get is free. Now, I do understand some people do charge, and the reason is because they do go out of their way to file your disability claims, and they stay on top of it. But at the same time, this is stuff that you can do yourself, which would allow you to benefit and also understand the process that you're going through. Because the problem is with a lot of veterans right now is that they don't understand the process. They don't understand what's going on. They don't understand what is necessary to be successful in their disability claims. So that's one thing that a lot of veterans have a problem with, where they will find other resources and they want to charge them for information that's free. The Code of Federal Regulations, Title 38, Chapter 1, Part 4, the Schedule of Ratings, that's free of charge for every veteran. Every veteran has the same ability to go and view that information, obtain that information, and use it for their benefit. I'm not saying it's to be used as a cheat. It is the code for a reason. The same way when we were in service, there was regulations and policies. You knew what the regulation was, and you used that in order to do what you had to do. Especially in the case when it came to shaving profiles, which is pseudofolliculitis. People used the regulation where it's like, hey, I don't have to shave. That was part of the regulation. It's the same thing with the Code of Federal Regulations, where it tells you what the disabilities are, what you can claim, what's the percentage you can receive. Once you receive that percentage, how it can be increased or how it can be decreased, why it didn't receive the higher level rating or why it received the lower level rating. These are things and instances that people need to understand that is beneficial for you, not just only for anybody else, but for the veteran specifically filing disability claims. Because if you're filing these disability claims, that means that you yourself know that you are either have an ailment of some sort, have a claim that you know is worth it, and that's what you do. Injuries. So question we have is how much do you get for injuries in your foot? That depends on the issue. So it depends on what it is, what you're filing for. That you would have to go to, give me 1 second. Let me see if that works. So that is the link right there to the musculoskeletal Code of Federal Regulations. So basically anything within that, you will be able to see it, and it basically shows it. It highlights it here. I have to change that. But that's something that you can use and you can benefit from in that manner, using it like that. So basically you would have to check through the musculoskeletal system, and you would have to go through to the foot. Once you get to the foot, you'll see the different ailments that you can go through, and that's how you would go about it. So that would be your way of distinguishing and making that possible, because otherwise you won't be able to do that if that's the case. So that's where you have to make sure to check what you have available and have it diagnosed, because the biggest thing is also you have to have a diagnosis of it while in service. A lot of the times those medical providers in the military will not correctly diagnose you. They'll just say it was like a foot injury, and they won't say specifically what it was. So in those cases, you have to make sure that if you have an injury, that you would like to specify what it is that you're dealing with in order to be successful. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't be successful if you don't have it, because if you have instances of injuries on your foot and you've gone multiple times, that's something that shows up in your medical record, but you have to continue to be evaluated for it. You have to get a permanent or a temporary profile. If you have a temporary profile while you're on active duty, that is something that you have to make sure that you continue to grab. So that's the one thing that a lot of people fail to do, is that they don't go about that and they don't get the documentation required. And since they don't have the documentation required, it makes it more difficult for people to understand that. You won't be successful in those cases because of that. Because of the fact that you don't have the documentation, but you always need the documentation no matter what the outcome is. You still need the documentation there. Because if you have the documentation, it allows you to do that. So that's the big difference there. Basically, that's where you have to do it. I don't know why on kick me back out and kick me back on, but it's whatever. But that's the instance where you have to see it, because you have to know what it is that you are dealing with, because that's the problem with a lot of veterans. They don't know what they're dealing with, and they don't know the correct diagnosis. So without the correct diagnosis, you're not going to be successful, because you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's bothering you. You don't know what those ailments are. If you don't know what those ailments are, you're not going to, what are you going to file for? If it says that you have this, but you don't actually have that, that causes even more problems. So you have to make sure that your documentation is correct and it has the necessary information, so that when you go to provide that for your disability claim you have it. Now, in all cases, you don't need medical documentation, but the thing is that most people fail to realize that with medical documentation, it makes it harder for them to deny it. It's a lot easier to deny a claim when you don't have any evidence. And that's what people seem to think. It was just like, yes, you can file, and you'll have a lot of people tell you, yeah, just file, just file. You have to make sure that you have some sort of documentation. Because if you don't have a diagnosis, which is paperwork or documentation showing that a doctor said, hey, you have this ailment, how are you going to file a disability claim if you don't have the actual doctor saying that you have it? See what I'm saying? So you still need evidence. You still need documentation in order to be successful. If you can't do that, that's when you run into those problems. So you have to make sure that you are able to have some sort of documentation. So to begin, basically, what we have to do when it comes to any time you're filing, because the thing is there's different methods of filing. So you can file through va.gov, so you can go through the online site and file through there and do an online one. You can do it at a VA regional office, which sometimes if you go to specific places, specific hospitals or clinics, they may have a VSO there represented. Via Veteran Service Organization or representative or assistance is basically a free way also of getting your claim done. The reason I try to make these workshops more educational purpose and not tell you exactly what to do is because I want people to understand what it is that they're filing. You need to be able to understand what it is you're filing, what the rating is you can get, what the possible outcomes are, and also how to go about if it gets denied. Because a lot of people don't know those instances, and when you're relying on somebody else to do the stuff for you, it becomes a slippery slope. Because the thing is the person that's going to concern themselves with being successful is you. You need to make sure that you are being successful. You need to make sure that you are understanding what is going on so that you can visualize and see what's going on. Because if you're not understanding what's going on, somebody can tell you, oh yeah, you can do this or you can do that. Well, why don't you go ahead and do this? Why don't you file for that? But if you have no idea what you're filing for, it makes it kind of difficult for you to be able to have a successful claim. So you have to make sure that you have some sort of knowledge as to what you're filing, why you're filing it, why you're going through this process. Because at the same time, those VSOs are also taking care of everybody else that is showing up to them. That's why a lot of veterans go to these paid programs and stuff like that, which, yes, if you don't want to go through the process and you want to depend on somebody else to do your work and you're paying them, it makes sense. You're paying them. So they need to be doing the work, but that's not always a solidified thing, because if you don't know what's going on and you don't know what the process is, you can pay for the process, but you can be tagged along and dragged along through the process at the same time. So it's better to at least educate yourself at the fundamental level, and then from there you at least know, oh, okay, he's filing this for me. I could file this. I need this paperwork and stuff like that. So it makes it a lot easier. So when you're going through it, the most important thing is that you have to gather your medical evidence and your records. So your service records are necessary because you were in service. You need to show that what happened in service. That's where that connection happens. That's where they link it together like, oh, you've been seen for this medical issue or this ailment, and you've gotten treatment while in service, whether that was physical therapy, whether that was steroid shots, whether that was anything that had to do with treatment or a plan. Like I said, having a profile is a strong method of showing that you had an injury or you had to be put on profile to show that you had this ailment. Now, most veterans do not have a copy of their profiles. They don't keep any of those profiles. They tend to just throw them away because once they're expired, they're gone because they were temporary. The only ones that stick around are those permanent ones. And permanent ones usually are from overweight seniors that don't want to run no more. But when it comes to promotion time, all of a sudden they can magically run. Yeah, I know I called out a whole bunch of them there. Don't give a shit because that's the honest truth and they know it themselves. They just didn't want to run the rest of the time, so they got a walking profile. So they had that permanent, but then when it came to promotion time, all of a sudden they were successful and able to do it. So those are things that you have to pay attention to. But that's the documentation that you still need, because that permanent profile, the same way with having a shaving profile, especially now with the changes that is going through to that, that's going to happen with a lot of these changes. That's going to happen. So we'll do that. But I'm going to backtrack a bit because I want to go back to and cover the changes because of this shutdown. So the impacts that it will have on veterans on this shutdown. So let me just go switch to this screen. And here, let's see, hold on. I have to remove this. Because this has messaging, but Kik is sending me a whole bunch of stuff, but we'll put this to the side. So with VA contingency planning. So this is what they have on the VA website. So on the VA website, they're basically trying to cover what's impacted with the shutdown and what will not be impacted with the shutdown. So I wanted to go over this so that basically people got a visualization to see what is affected and what's not, because not everything is affected with this. When it comes to disability pay, you still get your disability pay. That continues to go through. The only issue is that active duty service members do not get paid. Active duty service members do get paid most of the time if they are affiliated with a military bank. So usually a USAA or a Navy Fed is something that covers this, because of the fact that they know whenever this shutdown ends, you're going to get back paid. So they decide that, hey, we're going to front this money to you, basically stating, hey, we know that you would get paid on the 1st of the month or on the 15th of the month. So we're going to give you the pay that you get, because we know you're going to get it back afterwards. But remember, don't go ahead and just waste all that money, because you're going to have to pay it back. It's basically like a no interest loan that they know they're going to give you so that you can receive that. So that's one thing you need to understand. But here's the breakdown of not impacted by the shutdown. So when it comes to the what's not impacted, VA medical centers, outpatient clinics, and vet centers will be open as usual and providing all services. So if you had an appointment and you had this stuff, you will be able to continue to get that assistance. That does not go anywhere. When it comes to VA benefits, will continue to be processed and delivered, including compensation, pension, education, and housing benefits. So basically, this is basically trying to let veterans know that, hey, you are still going to receive your disability compensation. No matter with the shutdown going on, you will still receive that. Your pension, if you are on a pension, you will still receive that. If you are on education benefits, meaning that you are paying tuition, or most of the time you're halfway through the semester, I would say right now, or you would be due for payment in your semester, you have to make sure that you're putting that there, because you're still going to receive that, because most of the time when you're using your GI Bill, the money doesn't automatically get sent the first time through. So sometimes they split the payments, and then that way you are still getting paid for education. So even though you may get that tuition bill, it's still going to go through. So you're not going to have that problem. Uh, and the housing benefit. Oh, okay, I see. If you are having an issue viewing it, I am also on widescreen. Um, so if you go back to the link, I have two. I have one that's on mobile, and I have the full screen one. The full screen one shows you the full picture, so you should be able to view it better, I will say, on that one. So just in case if you have that issue. I don't know why this is on there, but I gotta get rid of that. Give me 1 second. That's how we got it right. Yeah. So I'll do it that way so that y'all can visualize it there. Because the thing is, it splits, so you can see it. So this is I'll do that for the mobile. I'll switch it over so that way you can see it in both ways. So the what not also and the housing benefit. So the housing benefit is basically if you get BAH. So if you get BAH, basically if you're getting the education benefits, you're getting paid that way, and you're also getting your housing allowance from whatever locality it is that your school is in. So that way you get that pay. So that's nothing to be concerned about. So veterans most of the time don't have any issues when it comes to that. When it comes to the Board of Veterans Appeals will continue decisions on veteran cases. So basically, if you're still going through the appeal process, that'll still continue. They will not stop that. So basically, that is a good thing because of the fact that we still have a backlog of appeals going through. So the fact that these will continue to go through doesn't mean that they're going to go even faster, but at least there's no stoppage in it, which doesn't slow down the process for many veterans. Our call centers are still primarily working. So all call centers are still available. The VA primary call center, which is the 1-800-MY-VA-411, and the veteran crisis line, the dial 988, is still available. So those are there. The benefit hotline, the VA benefit hotline, is available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. So basically, that is still available. So if you still have to make a phone call and you still have any issues or anything like that, you can still call the VA and somebody will answer. Remember, that may take a while because not everybody's going to be working. And you got to remember, some people will get furloughed during this. Not everybody. So these things are still in the process. But you got to remember that some veterans are getting furloughed, or VA workers are getting furloughed during this time period. So it may not move as quickly. It's still going to happen, but it may slow down the process. Suicide prevention programs, homelessness service, and the caregiver support will continue. So basically, if you are dealing with any of those issues, you can still call the hotlines and you can still call the VA to get assistance. So now we will switch to what is being affected by the VA. So hold on, let me do this real quick. So these are the issues that are being impacted by the government shutdown. So for the government shutdown, we do have the VA will cease providing transition program assistance and career counseling. So that when it comes to basically your VRE or your transitioning program where they assist you with any questions you may have and stuff, that is put on hold, which takes effect and causes issues for veterans because if they're in that transition phase, they don't know exactly what's going on, especially when, hey, how do I file, stuff like that. That's something that's important and needs to be taken care of. So that's something to pay attention to. But these are the call centers, because remember, we just spoke on the call centers when it came to care, suicide hotline, or the benefit hotline. Those are operational. What is not operational is the VA's GI Bill, the National Cemetery Application Assistance. They will be closed. So basically, if you have any questions with your GI Bill, you will not be able to directly call that phone number to get the stuff. You're still going to get your payments, you're still going to get your housing allowance, but if you have any direct questions that you have to ask to them, they will be closed. The only instance where that may be a delay or may cause a problem is if for a veteran, let's say you are in that problem with that tuition, or the school didn't see the tuition right, or something's going on with the tuition, you may run into that problem where that is where you are trying to make a phone call and it won't go through. So just keep that in mind. The BA Benefits Regional Office will be closed. So the regional offices will be closed when it comes to benefits. So just keep that in mind. Public affairs and unfunded outreach to veterans will cease, including social media, vet resources emails, and responses to press inquiries. So basically, if you're asking for any specific questions or stuff like that, that'll be shut down and it's not going to happen. No ground maintenance or placement of permanent headstones at the VA cemeteries. So if you are going through the process of laying a veteran to rest and you are getting a headstone, that is going to be put on pause until the government shutdown ends. Then from there, they will probably resume the issue. The applications for pre-need burial at VA cemeteries will not be processed. Again, the applications for pre-need burial at VA cemeteries will not be processed. So basically, they're not going to be taking any processes to do that ahead of time. No printing of new presidential memorial certificates. That's a specific area basically that they won't be printing them out, which I don't know how that is affected that drastically, but hey, They have certain things that happen and certain things that don't. And then no outreach to state, county, tribal, municipal, faith-based, and community-based partners by VA central office. So basically, that's what they state, and this is basically it's saying like, hey, continue to check on this website to basically make sure that you know what's going on in case of any changes, and then that way you have it. So now that way you know, okay, these are the things, these are the changes that they are proposing, this is what they are planning to do, and these are the effects that it will have. So always keep that in mind when it comes to that, that through a VA shutdown, through a government shutdown, there are still services available if you need assistance, you need you have suicidal ideations or any other thing, the hotlines are still available. When it comes to specific ones, those things may not be available. But keep in mind that with Congress already, there has been laws passed that with government shutdowns, veterans still receive their benefits. So that's one thing to always keep in mind, that it's just like veterans always keep their benefits. They don't have to lose them. They don't have to worry about losing them. So that basically benefits veterans in that manner. You still receive those the disability claims and all that. So I just wanted to touch on that because I know a lot of the times when it comes to a government shutdown, that's when a lot of veterans start freaking out. They start freaking out. They start getting anxious. Anxiety shoots through the roof. Because it's a difficult time because you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. It's being impacted. So that's something that you have to pay attention to. It was just like, these are things that happen. The government shutdown, there's happened in the past 7 years. There's been 3. We don't know how long this one is going to be. The last one went for about 31 days. So that was like a month plus. So we don't know exactly how long this one may last. This may end within the week. It may end in a while. We don't know that. So until Congress gets their shit together, then we'll figure out what the hell is going on. But just remember that these resources are available. So if you have that, you can go to the va.gov site. So if you go to va.gov, it's right on the top. So it's that first link that's right on the top that says get information on how the government shutdown happened. So if any changes happens, that would be the place that they have it. So that information is there plain as day for you to do it and use it. So if you have that information or you know any veterans that have any questions like that, please make sure to refer them to the va.gov site or let them know that this information, that if it comes to benefits and stuff like that, they are still going to be receiving it and don't have any issues. And that's covering basically the government shutdown. The other thing I wanted to touch on real quick before we get back into the filing process is that VSR that decided that he wanted to approve 85,000 disability claims. I think he's a national treasure. I don't think everybody agrees with me on that, but I think he's a national fucking treasure. This man needs to be protected at all costs. But this is the reason why I want to highlight on this VSR approving these things is because this is where filing your disability claim comes in handy. This is where knowing what you did and what you have is essential, because you have to realize a lot of these, out of those 85,000, they said there was a error of like 84%. Which means that there was a lot of errors made with the process. So what most people need to realize with that is that with this process, you have to be able to know what the CFR is, what you highlighted, what you got approved, what you didn't get approved, and making sure that you have evidence for it. So if you are one of those veterans that feel that maybe you got a approval that you didn't, this is now the time to make sure that you are getting documentation. Make sure you have your documentation straight. Anybody that's in the Philadelphia region or that Philly region, which is, I believe, the Northeast region, which was where a lot of these approvals happened, you have to ensure that your documentation is correct. You have to make sure that you have evidence. If you've been going to a doctor for anything that you got approved for, whether it's through the VA or outside of the VA, make sure you are obtaining those documents. Make sure you are obtaining that evidence, because that is going to be crucial in case they decide to send you a letter or basically which the VA, they won't be sending it out now through the shutdown, but they will probably do that afterwards because they're going to go through the process of probably reviewing these if they haven't already, because this happened between 2022 and 2024. So basically within this past year, there could have been reevaluation. So if you receive a letter basically stating, hey, we are going to reevaluate this because of an error that was done, you have to make sure you see and look at the documentation in there and see, okay, this error was created or caused by this. So if it says, oh, we are checking your, oh, what happened here? Oh. Hold on. Why does this thing look all janky now? Interesting. My video got all messed up for some reason. I'm not sure how that happened, but interesting. Why can't I click? Why is this giving me so much problems? There we go. Okay. That's better. For some reason I lost the size of it and changed it. But so what I was basically getting at with this scenario is that basically shit, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so you want to make sure that you are looking at this information correctly, because the thing is if you are going to be reevaluated, they have to have proof of it, you not having these issues. So let's say you are going to be reevaluated, and this happens not only if there's an error, but even if you're going to be reevaluated in any case anyway, you have to make sure that you are understanding this and paying attention to it, because your information is vital. The information you have is vital. The documentation you have is vital. So basically anything that you got approved for with your disability, you have to make sure you have the documentation, or you continue to seek therapy, whether it's a mental health issue, a physical issue. Get documentation, you have medication, whatever that case may be, you have to make sure that you have that. As a veteran, even though you may be 100% P&T, or you may be going to try to get an increase, you still have to have that documentation showing that you're going through the issue. Due to the so there you will not be notified by any other means. You would have to basically get a letter. You have to receive a letter from the VA. If you are going to be reviewed, reevaluated, or they are proposing a decrease, or whatever the case may be, you will receive a letter. So one of the main things, and a lot of the times what happens with veterans also, is veterans have to make sure that their current address is correct. The person that oversaw it was, I believe, in the Northeast region. So he was out of the Philadelphia regional office. But that doesn't mean this is the one thing that people need to realize. Just because this happened on one side doesn't mean that they're not going to try to reevaluate everybody. That's the one thing that people need to realize. Just because it just happened on this side and there was errors there, those files and everybody that he approved like that will definitely be reevaluated. But that doesn't mean that you can't get reevaluated. Everybody can be reevaluated, especially if you have 100% and don't have a P&T, because of the fact that you don't have a static, which meaning that the VA knows that it's going to get worse. If you don't have static symptoms or conditions, they know that there's possibility of improvement. If there's possibility of improvement, you can always be reevaluated, because if you're going to get seen and it's showing that you are improving, they can try to decrease it. But most cases, they don't just randomly pick people just to, hey, I'm going to just, hey, Jay Vasquez, I'm going to take your shit and I'm going to just look it over. It doesn't happen that way. You have to have a reason. They have to have a reason to do it. Because in order to be decreased, you have to show significant positive, how can I say it? You have to show significant improvement. And by significant improvement, I mean you have to show that that is what's going on. Because if you're not doing it, it just doesn't happen. If you are not showing enough evidence and not showing how it's improving, you have that problem. So that's the thing. That's what people need to understand. When it comes to it, it's not that they're going to do it, but you got to remember this administration and the VA is trying to push more towards AI. They're trying to make it so that people get reevaluated. They want to make sure that veterans that don't receive the stuff or don't need the diagnosis don't receive it. But you have to prepare yourself in all cases just in case of anything. It happened in that side, that's 85,000. There's over 19 million veterans. But there's only about 8 to 9, closing in on 9 million that actually use the VA resources. So that's something you have to pay attention to, and you have to make sure that you identify, because if you're not identifying that, that's where you run into that problem. But that's why I say it's important for you to know what you got approved and what you didn't, because whether you're in that region or not, you can get reevaluated. So that's something to think about. So always having documentation, no matter what the issue is important. If you have back issues and you continue to see a chiropractor, and the chiropractor is an outside entity that doesn't work with the VA, make sure that you have the ability to get that documentation, because then it shows, hey, I've been going to the chiropractor for my back issue. I'm not going through the VA. I have my own personal way of doing it. Because that's the thing. A lot of the times you have to show that. But if you're P&T, most of the time they leave you alone because you got there because they know you're not going to improve. If you're getting to 100% P&T, it's because they know you're not going to improve. They know you're not going to get better. But at the same time, if you are filing for an increase or you may get a decrease letter, the only way you will get it is a letter. So make sure that your address is correct when you are trying to file for this. Because if you're not, you run into that problem. All right. And that's the thing with that 85,000. It was just like they are going to visualize that. They are going to check on that. They are going to look to see who is going through what and what's going on, because they need to make sure that that's what's going on. So they need to make sure, hey, if we approve this guy's rating, now we have to verify that he's going through it. If you are a veteran that didn't lie and didn't have any issues and is still being medically seen by the VA for these issues, you shouldn't have a problem when it comes to getting your disability claim approved. They may go and check it over again, but once they see your documentation and they see, oh, this person's been going to the appointments this whole time for all this, they're going to understand, yep, skip this one, let's go to the next one. But then when you have people that is just like they don't have documentation or didn't have something, you know, it causes, it's an issue for concern. So that's why it's always doing it that way. But so back to basically the filing of the disability claims and stuff like that. So what we do is when you're going, is just like I said, there's multiple ways of filing it. You're going to get your medical evidence. You're going to get your records. You're going to write down all your disability. If you have any issues, just write them all down. Doesn't matter if they were service connected or not. Any issues you are currently dealing with, write them all down. Make an entire list of every ailment you're dealing with, whether it happened in the military or didn't. Put it into a document. Start writing down the whole thing as to, hey, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that, I have back issues, I don't have back issues, whatever the case may be. That's what you got to do. That's what you have to highlight. That's what you have to show. That's what has to be there. You have to have that documentation to be prepared. You write everything down, because the thing is you got to remember, a lot of the times it is a primary, which is what you're filing for, the disability claim. But then also you got to remember there's secondary claims. So not only are you writing a list of everything bothering you, because the thing is some of these things will be service connected, but at the same time, some of them will not be. Some of them will be secondary. Delays in many departments with regards to the shutdown, but did you see anything about Chapter 35 applications not being processed? No, I did not see anything about that not being processed, because the thing is the school year has already started. So Chapter 35 and the DEA benefits, the Dependents Education Assistance benefits, should still be going through. That is still a payment that is there, so that is still a benefit that should still be going through. I can't I cannot answer that question correctly. That I cannot tell you specifically. Cuz that may be that can and can't happen. That's not it. I need to fix that. But that's the thing. There, I wouldn't be able to tell you what the delays are and what they can be. The VA never tells you what the delays are in the first place. So it's specifically in that way when it comes to applications and anything like that, just expect delays. Because of the fact that, hey, remember when it's a government shutdown, a lot of federal workers get put on furlough. A lot of federal workers get put on furlough and they'll just be like, hey, you're not working. And the thing is they never tell you what specifically or how many specifically are being sent home. So I would just say to make sure that you stay on it, make sure to keep on calling, but delays will most likely happen because if you don't have everybody that was already working doing the stuff, there's going to be delays. So expect delays. How long? That'll be like the $1,000,000 question. There's going to be delays, which they're going to, what departments they're going to, who's working, how many people only got one person in the office, how many people got 10 people. You see what I'm saying? That they never tell us. So that's why it's like the best thing to do is not lose, like freak out or anything and just like, okay, there's going to be delays. How long this goes for, we don't know. The last one, like I said, the longest one was 31 days. We don't know if it's going to go longer or it could just end this coming week. So that's why I'm saying that's the thing. But remember at the same time that through this process, at this time period, a lot of those people that were deciding to retire early or that the RFI, basically the resignation, that is going into effect and those people are now leaving through this time period. So with this government shutdown, a lot of these people are leaving because this is the new fiscal year that started on October 1st. So a lot of these people are resigning and leaving their positions. So there's going to be a skeleton crew no matter what happens after this comes back. Where it's going to happen, like I said, we don't know. So that's why it's just keep in mind. And that's why you got to make sure you have everything straight. So if you're sending everything, you don't want to put a further delay on your documentation or on your filing. So you got to make sure you're putting that into place. You got to make sure you have that and that's there, because otherwise, if you do not have that information set and you send it off and then there's a delay, something went wrong, and then they have to kick it back, you're just delaying it even further if there's already another delay on top of that. So keep that in mind. What else? When it comes to that, when you have a listing of all your disability, anything you may file for, you have that listing. Consider getting buddy statements, which means, hey, if you have any buddies that were there, that witnessed it, were around it, let's say if you have sleep apnea and you were deployed or you were in training exercises or whatever the case may be, and you have a buddy that can help you and assist you, like, yes, when I was bunked next to this guy never stopped snoring. It sounded like he was choking in his sleep. A couple of times I had to wake him up because he fell asleep and it sounded like he couldn't breathe. Stuff like that. Those documents are very important also. That's something that, like I said, it goes and it builds off of that list that you made of everything that's bothering you. Because the thing is when you look at your medical records, which you should already have, that goes into it. So you have your medical records, but without looking at it, make a list of everything that's bothering you. Because then you have everything that's bothering you. And then you have, hey, I've already been seen with this. I have medical documentation in service of this. Now, then you start seeing, hey, maybe because I have this causes this, which lets you build on secondary claims, which may happen after the fact that you get the first ones approved. But that's how you got to realize that. But you got to make sure you have a list of everything so that everything is there. Keep copies of everything. And when I say medical information, you have your documentation, put it in a PDF. The best thing I always suggest to veterans is when you have anything that was in your records, anything, make it a PDF file. If you don't have a scanner, which most people don't have anymore, there's Adobe Scan, which is a free app. You can download it. You can take your documents, scan them onto your phone, and make a PDF file on your phone. And then you can email that to yourself and have that as a document. So literally, if you have different documents, because when you have all these ailments, you want to make sure that you are separating everything to make it clean, cut, and precise as to what it is that you are speaking on. Because your medical record is going to be hundreds of pages. Ain't nobody going to read 100 pages. Shit, you might not even read the 100 pages. Let alone somebody that's been looking at pages for days is not going to go and read 900 pages worth of stuff. So this is where you have to make sure to separate those ailments. So when you have everything laid out, you have all the documentation, you have a record, now you start separating those medical issues. So you had that list of your issues. Oh, I've had shoulder issues. Okay. Now you go into your medical records and you find every instance where you had that left shoulder incident, left shoulder issue, left shoulder physical therapy, left shoulder steroid shot, left that. You separate all of those into one PDF. Now you have an Adobe PDF that is left shoulder and you label it that. Now you separate that and you save that. All right. Next down the list, right knee injury. Do the same thing. Go through your files, go through your records. Every time that it's there, put it in there. Because remember, most of the time your medical records are in time frame order, or basically from your first time going to the PA to your last time. So every instance in between, there's no category separation when it comes to your medical records. It's just like, oh, knee issues, and you can just do that. No, everything is just summed up because they just give it to you in one online document, or they give you all that paperwork. That's where you can go through the paperwork and you start filing it separately so that you have everything identified. Now you have it that when you submit it as evidence, hey, this is my right knee issue. If they need to look up what was wrong with your right knee, now you have every single time you went to the doctor, every time you had any documentation, and they'll be like, damn, okay, this person did their homework. Oh, this is all he had with his left shoulder. This is all the documentation there. And that's how you would make sure to go ahead and file it. That way it is easier and accurate because now you have everything that you've gone through and it is established and placed in those documents. So keep that in mind. The effective date, which is what a lot of people fail to understand. Once you file an intent to file, which you go through the va.gov or whenever you send in, if it's the 21-526EZ, if you're filing that and you're mailing it in, the day that they receive it becomes the effective date. For most veterans, if they're doing the BDD process, which is the benefits delivery by discharge, their effective date is the day after they've ETS'd. Otherwise, it is whenever they receive it. So if you go and you file an intent to file, let's say October 5th of this year, you have till October 5th of 2026 to complete and submit everything for that filing. If you don't do that, then the clock restarts. Otherwise, your effective date, no matter how long it takes, will always be October 5th, 2025. Even if it goes through appeals or you have a higher level review, you will still get October 5th. 2025 as that date. So it's important to always file an intent to file because that would be your effective date, meaning it gives you a whole year. So if you decide, hey, you want to file this upcoming year, you can do your intent to file today. Not fill anything out yet, but you can do your intent to file today and work on that progress and everything. So let's say in 4 months you have everything, you can submit it all and there it goes. And your effective date would be October 5th. So even though you go through the process and it may be delayed with this and whatever happens, you would still get a benefit basically of October 5th being the day where your payments would start, which would mean your back pay would be bigger because of the fact that it's starting on October 5th and it might have taken a year. So that would be a whole year worth of back pay if that's when it gets identified and done. So that's always one of the things when it comes to it. When you're submitting your claim, you have to make sure that somebody else looked at it. Doesn't have to be a professional. Like I like to tell people, if you are filing your disability claim and you can't hand it to a random person, or you can't hand it to another person that knows nothing about your stuff, and they can't tell you what's wrong with you, that's a sign. That's a sign like, man, okay, this person don't know what it is, but I thought I laid everything out well, and they still don't know what the hell I'm talking about, or they still don't know what's wrong with me. You run into issues. Or go to a VSO and have it checked out. Or ask veterans that have gone through the process. Don't always listen to all the veterans. Don't even always listen to me. Go and verify. Remember, trust and verify. You trust, but then you still go and verify. That's a military way of doing it. It's the same thing here with your disability claim. Trust that you got it right, but make sure to verify that it's actually correct. Because otherwise, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. You got to trust that you have everything right, but go and have somebody else verify it so that you know, okay, all my documentation is straight. My paperwork is good. Okay, I can continue this way. And that's what people fail to do at times. While you're doing that, you're going to go through that. You're going to file. Somebody's going to look at it. You file, you submit. Okay, it's going to go through the whole steps process. You're going to go and get a CMP exam. Once you go through that CMP exam, you have to understand that the VA is going to schedule that for you. The CMP exam will be scheduled by the VA. They will call you and be like, hey, you have a CMP exam, and we'd like to schedule it for whatever day, and this, and that. What you need to understand, that is to check on your disability claims. Now, not always are you going to get the same person. Sometimes with certain things, it's different things. Sometimes it's a general doctor that will go and oversee and do the CMP exam. Not always the case. If you have a medical issue or a mental health issue, you will probably see a psychiatrist, a therapist, or something like that. They will evaluate you there. When it comes to anything musculoskeletal, migraine, sleep apnea, anything like that, they're going to try to evaluate you there. If it's for sleep apnea, sometimes they might even ask you to do a sleep study. If you can, ask for the sleep study to be done at home and not through the little take-home shit that you just put on your chest. I've seen bad results from that because I've seen people have attempted to use it, but it doesn't come out as well and doesn't give you the correct information because of the fact that you're comfortable. Most of the time, people, it falls off the chest or whatever the case. Or just like, give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Hold on. Had to use the restroom real quick. Apologize for that. But we're back now. But yeah. So that's one of the other instances there when it's just like you're gonna do a CMP exam. When you go to your CMP exam, be prepared for it. Be prepared. Know what it is that they're gonna ask. Remember to give the full picture of what you're going through. Go through the full picture of, hey, I deal with this issue. This issue continues. This is at its best. This is at its worst. It doesn't allow me to do this and it doesn't allow me to do that. Make sure that you are directing the conversation because the thing is this is about you. It's not about the CMP examiner. It's about you. What is ailing you? What is it hurting you? What is causing you this? What is causing you that? And that's where it's important to know what the Code of Federal Regulation says on basically what it is. Because knowing what the Code of Federal Regulation is, it's not to use it as a cheat, which some veterans do use it as a cheat. They use it as a cheat to try to further themselves and lie to get a higher rating. What you need to do is that you need to look at it because that gives you the basis and the information of knowing what it is you will get and what it is you can't get based on your ailments. So you know what it is, and that also allows you to know what it is that you're going to file for a disability claim. Because otherwise, if you're filing for something and have no idea what it is, You run through that problem of not being successful, which happens. So when you're going through that, you have to make sure that you are being honest. Don't try to lie. Don't try to do it. But be honest about what is bothering you. But also, when you are in pain, when you feel that first bit of pain, stop. Do not push through. Do not, this is not the time to be that tough guy. This is not time to be that tough girl. It's just like, yeah, I got pain. No, this is where when you go through the CMP exam, once you feel pain, once your shoulder goes up to this and you feel that it's painful, stop. Be like, hey, this is as far as my shoulder can go without it being painful. If I go any further, yes, I can go further, but it's painful the whole way. That's something you can explain so that they understand that it starts at this moment. Because if you have the ability to do a full range of your shoulder and move it and stuff like that, yeah, you look like you're in pain, but it's not stopping you from moving. You look like you could do this the whole time. You could wave your arm around, do all this. It looks painful. They see you wincing, but you still have the ability to do it. Stop when the pain starts. So if you get up to here and the pain starts, it'll be like, look, it hurts here. And then from there, because most of the CMP examiners will tell you, hey, I don't need you to keep on going. I need you to go to where it starts hurting. Because then they notate that, because that determines your mobility factor. If you have the ability to move your whole arm the whole way fucking through, you're in pain, but you still have 100% mobility. So what are they going to put? 100% mobility. They're not going to put that you have only 45 degrees or 90 degrees. They're going to be like, man, he could go the whole 180. He looks like he's in pain, but he's able to do it, so it doesn't affect him to that point. So that's what people need to realize, that a lot of the times, some CMP examiners will tell you to stop when the pain starts. And some CMP examiners will just let you and watch you and be like, look, I saw his whole arm go from point A all the way to point C, which shows he has full range of motion. Full range of motion. They're not going to ask you anymore. I was like, they saw what they had to see. It was like, he winces, but he's able to use his arm full range of motion. That's what they put. That's what goes into your record. That's what goes into your file. And a lot of veterans will end up pissed off and mad. It was like, shit, I didn't do this. I was just like, I thought this was going to happen. I thought my shoulder was bad enough that it was just, no. They're going off of what the Code of Federal Regulations says. Code of Federal Regulations says if you have mobility that surpasses this amount, shit, you get 0%. It'll be service connected, which will say, oh, it's service connected. So yeah, he did have this injury there, but is asked, and that's what it is. Let's see. Best practice I've suggested to veterans I've helped download all DBQs because they can be taken down again. Complete self the DBQ and take it with them because many do not verbally advocate at the CMP. So the DBQs, hold on, do I have them here? Oh, I haven't filed that one out yet. I still don't have, I have the link to that. Let me post that. Give me a second. That is the link right there. I haven't been able to, I haven't made it into a little button on my computer to push it out, but that is the link to the DBQs on there. And it basically gives you that information. Mike, it's not necessary that you will only get a 10% rating, because the thing is it depends on the Code of Federal Regulations. So if you're at the Code of Federal Regulations and it says, hey, you were able to do this, that could be just 0%. Because it's just like you have full fluid motion. So you might just get you might get a 0%. But the thing is one thing that veterans need to realize also is some veterans take that as a loss. It was just like, no, you have to understand you are now service connected. That's what you needed. That was the whole purpose of this, to be service connected. Because now, with time and documentation and going to the doctor, maybe that CMP examiner saw you doing that. But then you go in and you get evaluated for an increase, and now you realize, oh, damn, I'm going to listen to Cruz. Cruz told me, hey, whatever pain it is, whenever the pain starts, stop. My pain stops here. And then you can get an increase for that reason. Why? Because you stopped where the pain was at, and that'll give you an increase. But you have to show that there. You have to show that you've gone through therapy. You've gone through this to show that, hey, look, I've gone through all this. And even though I was able to do this at the CMP exam, I was really only able to do this. I was only able to go shoulder length. So that's what you have to make sure to do that. Because if you're not doing that, you could do it. But if you have service connection, now is just filing for increases. Yes, the time does get delayed. The information does get delayed. But at the same time, you already did the hard part, which was proving to the VA that you had a service connected issue. With the increases, just showing the further documentation to go up. So that's what people need to realize. A lot of people take that as a loss. And it's like, no, you might have gotten 0%. You might have gotten 10% and thought you needed 40. But now you know that, hey, I've continued to go to the doctor. I've continued to show. I continue to go through the VA, and I can use the VA doctor showing that I went through physical therapy and it has only gotten worse. And that's exactly, and that's Vasquez. That's why I said earlier, when you are writing all of your disability claims, you have to make sure you're doing that. That is one of the important things, because now that you have that shoulder injury, that can cause different things. Now, shoulder is difficult because a lot of the things don't get connected to shoulder issues, but that can cause numbness in the thing because you may have a pinched nerve. You may have issues that correlate to your wrist or your arm, whatever the case may be. But now you have secondary issues that you can connect to it. But that's why I say it's important to write down everything bothering you. Because the thing is you're not a medical professional. I sure as fuck ain't no medical professional. But if I know what's there and then I take my symptoms and my issues to a medical professional, it was like, oh, you have this. Well, did you know? And that's when they hit you with the, did you know that your sleep apnea may be causing a bit of your depression because you're not getting enough sleep? Or maybe it's causing your chronic fatigue syndrome because of the fact that your body isn't doing it. And I was just like, that can go and that goes like that. Yes, and that's the thing. A primary disability can be at 0%, but your secondary can be higher. That's why it's like you have to make sure that you are getting service connected. It's not about the percentage. It is the percentage getting it correct. That's the important part about getting the information correct. But secondaries can also lead to higher ratings. So that's why it's always, you got to make a whole list of it. It's just like, yeah, I can prove this happened in service, but this one, I can't prove it happened in service, but I can prove that it happened because of what happened in service. See what I'm saying? Those are stipulations and things that most people just don't pay attention to. You can have, if it's service connected, that means you can connect whatever is connected to it afterwards. Same thing as proving it, but it's not the same because you don't have to provide the information showing that it happened because of service. Now you just have to have the diagnosis and the documentation showing that your primary is linked to the secondary and is causing the secondary. Whole different thing, because you don't need to go back and find medical records. You don't need to find your service records and all that to make that connection. Now it's just, hey, you have a diagnosis, you have the documentation, whether it's a medical study, whether it's a nexus letter, whether it's a DBQ, which, like, I posted the link to the DBQ. Also, the DBQ is a very good assistance when it comes to informing you of what's there. Because the thing is let's say, we'll do this real quick. See if I can make this work. Okay, so you have, this is the DBQ page. So when you click on the DBQ page, this is what comes out, right? So once you have that DBQ page, you're going to be able to go to, let's say we are having musculoskeletal issues, right? Let's go to foot conditions, because we had a Dr. Vital earlier saying that. It was like, now it's loading up, right? We'll let it load up. Let's close this out and let's make this a bit larger for y'all to be able to see. Oh, that's too large. All right. So here you have the DBQ now, right? So now with the DBQ, this is going to go through the process and its foot conditions, including flat foot, pest planets, disability, benefits questionnaire, right? So you have a foot issue. That was your biggest thing. You have a foot issue and you want to file for a foot issue. So you went through the CFR and you saw all the foot things, but you didn't know what the fuck anything was. Well, that's where you go and look it up. But at the same time, if you look at the DBQ, now it gives you different options. It gives you different names. You'll see different names here that you didn't associate and didn't know that can have or be a foot issue. What's up, Annette? Yeah, I haven't been streaming as much. I'm doing these once every first Sunday now. I was on TikTok, but TikTok has been acting a fool, so I'm no longer streaming live on TikTok. So it's primarily on here. And the website is still a work in progress, but we're doing the best we can, and we're trying to do these at least once a month, so that way we can do a more in-depth scenario of a topic instead of just doing it weekly and then it's just like it gets bogged down. So it brings a bit more importance to it. If people actually want to tune in, they can do so. But as always, thank you for being a member, and always thank you for being here. So like I was saying with the DBQs, let's say you have flat feet, right? So you just put that you wanted to put flat feet. Flat feet was what you were filing for. That's the case. But now you look at it and it's just like, man, hold on. I didn't realize that with my feet, I can also have plantar fasciitis, Morton's neuroma, metatarsалgia, hammer toes, hallux valgus, hallux rigidus, which is corns, acquired pes cavius, clawfoot. I ain't even gonna try that one. Y'all can figure that one out. Or tarsal metatarsal bones, foot injuries. Those are all just the foot issues. That's all the foot issues, just being specific to that. Now it goes into arthritic conditions that are within the foot, whether that's arthritis, degenerative, other than post-traumatic, gonorrheal, pneumonic, streponomic, syphilitic, all those. And it gives you all these different instances of things that you can also be dealing with your foot. So yes, you have flat feet. But that flat feet may be caused by something else, or you may be having issues with your feet that are because of arthritis that you've developed in there. These are things that are good to do, because the thing is also inflammatory conditions, osteoporosis, bones neoplasms, tendinopathy, which is tendonitis in your foot and stuff like that, or other. But the thing is if you provide this DBQ to a medical professional when you're going to be seen, that allows them to see, because the thing is, like I said, you're not a medical professional. You're not a doctor. You don't know what the hell is wrong with you. You just know your foot hurts. You know you got flat feet, but your feet still hurt, but you don't know what it is. Now, if you are presenting a DBQ to your medical professional, when you're getting this diagnosis for flat feet, they can also see, hey, these are other things that are also, these are other things that are also involved and also placed in the CFR. These are other things I can also file disability claims for. These are things I didn't know, because the thing is all I know was my foot hurt. I don't know the terminology. I don't know what exactly is wrong with my foot. I don't know what that is. But if you present this, then it gives you the option, or your doctor an option like, oh, okay. Well, you have flat feet. It's always a pleasure, Annette. Thank you. I have no problem assisting vets. It's the least I can do. The least I can do. Besides trying to educate people as best I can, it's the least I can do. But that's the thing with that. In those cases here, now you have a list of different ailments you have. Now, like I said, remember when I said, hey, at the beginning, make sure to make a list of everything that's bothering you. So you have flat feet. But your flat feet is the reason now that you have arthritis in your feet. That's a secondary condition, because you have flat feet, and that'll be service connected. Now you can say, hey, I have this pain and I have arthritis developed because of my flat feet. you just gave yourself a secondary issue without even realizing it, because you just thought it was a flat feet that was causing the issue, but it could be that you had arthritis formed because of that flat feet issue. Remember though, you have to have a diagnosis for that. You have to have the documentation. But if that doctor made that association like, oh, okay, your flat feet are causing you to walk like this, and that's what's causing your feet and the ball of your foot to start feeling like bones or something like that. Could be plantar fasciitis, could be something else. But if that's involved in there, that way they have the ability to see it. The same way this happens with all the other ones. Every other DBQ that's in here is there. They're all available. You can go to the link which I provided. That link will show you, and that link will give you everything that's there that you can check. So for anything that you are filing for, you can go ahead and double check on that and see what else can possibly be it in order to corroborate what your primary issue is, and if it's a secondary issue that's being caused because of the first thing. Or it could just be a separate issue, which does happen. But if you can make that association and put the things together, now everybody understands, oh, I have this because of this. So now I can file for this because of my first service connected thing. So that's always important, because that's going to be checked at the VA. That's going to be checked with your CMP exam. And then it goes after the CMP exam, you're going to go through that procedure. You're going to go through the check. They're going to identify everything. They're going to go through everything you have. This is one thing that I tell veterans. If you are going through this process, make sure that you know what it is that you are filing for. If you have to, have a little notebook just to basically know what it is that you filed. Because most of the time they're going to ask you different things. And a lot of veterans, I've noticed that they have a lot of the tendency to kind of like freak out at CMP exams is because of the fact that sometimes with certain things they ask a shitload of questions, and for other things they don't. And what veterans need to understand with this is if they are asking you a lot of questions, is because probably your evidence may not be as strong, or they need to know what it is with the CFR. Because the thing is for certain things, you get certain ratings. So like, let's take the example of migraines. If you deal with migraines, so when I went through my CMP exam, it was just like, hey, you deal with migraines. I was like, yeah. And it was just like, what do you take for it? I was just like, I used to take something that they gave me, but they wasn't working. So I went through like Excedrin migraine extra strength or whatever the shit was called. I can't remember. And it was just like, and he looked at it and then he just looked up my prescriptions and he sees it. He was like, oh, okay. You had Risiptopran or some shit like that. He was like, oh, okay, no, okay. He was like, and then he just switched because now he saw that I had documentation and I had been medicated migraine medication. So he started asking different questions. So now the question was just like, so how often do you get them? And I was just like, most of the time I get them once a week or at least twice a week, depending on what's going on, stress levels, just work, I just deal with them often. And I was just like, I've had this issue for years now, and that was documented in my thing because I kept on getting the medication. So then he asked, he was like, okay, how often do you get them? And then it was like, how bad do they get? So I was just like, they get bad enough that I have to like, basically I'm clocked out. I have to like lay down. I have to go to sleep, turn off all the lights, no loud sounds. I'm basically rendered useless. And he was like, oh, okay. Boom, moved on to the next one. And at first that caught me off guard, but it was like, damn, that was quick. He didn't ask that many questions. But the thing is what he was trying to do was he was trying to find the information as to how it went with the CFR. Because with the CFR, it basically shows if you have a headache once a month, that might be like 10%. If you get them every couple of months, that might be 0%. If you get them all the time, that might get you to 30%. If they get so bad that you have to lay down or they're prostrating, as the terminology is, that you have to lay down, turn off all the lights, they realize it's like, you know what? Okay, you get them more often than not. They are so bad that you are basically rendered useless. You have to keep on taking the medication. Okay, that is 50% because that's what on the CFR it explains. Like if we go and show the CFR, which I'll show you, basically I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Let me make this a bit smaller so it can be seen on this screen. So you would go to the Code of Federal Regulations. If you don't have the link to that, I'll put this here and give y'all the link so y'all can follow along if y'all want to. I don't know if y'all watching on TV. I see a lot of people are on mobile, so it might not be easy to go back to it. But remember, these lives will still be available after they're done, so you can just go back and watch anything you need to in case like that. In any case, you can always find the information you need to. So if you go through the Code of CFR, this is basically part 4, which shows the schedule of ratings. When you're at the schedule of ratings, you can go to the table of contents, and then you go to neurological, because that's what migraines falls under. So neurological conditions. So you would scroll down, because from off the top of my head, I believe that is diagnostic code 8100 for migraines. So you would scroll all the way down to migraines. So here it goes. So this is the breakdown of migraines. Let me make sure y'all can see this correctly. Yes. So here you go. So the breakdown for migraines. 0. Like I said, the question he asks is like, how often do I get them and how bad do they get them? With less frequent attacks, 0. Meaning you get them, but you don't get them that much. So it's just like you got them. It'll be service connected, so you would still be able to ask for migraine medication. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. If it's service connected, you can get assistance for it. So you may not get migraines all the time that are debilitating, but you can still get medication so that way, in case you do get it, it was like, hey, I know I can take these pills. 10%. With characteristic prostrating attacks averaging 1 in 2 months or over the last several months. So meaning you get 1 every 2 months. And they're bad. 1 every 2 months. That's 10%. Now, with the characteristic of prostrating attacks occurring on an average once a month over the last several months, meaning you just get it once a month, that puts you at 30%. And then if you go with the very frequent, completely prostrating and prolonged attacks, productive of severe economic inaptability, basically if you have to stay home, if you are in the service and had to be sent home because of this, or you got the medication, or you ended up getting that steroid shot for the migraines, that would cause you to have severe enough that it doesn't allow you to be successful, doesn't allow you to operate, that would be considered 50%. So that's what I'm saying. That's why it's important to review what you have, see what the CFR says, and see what you deal with it. Another thing with the migraines is it's always helpful to keep a track of when you get them. If you have a track record of showing that you get them on this, because there's an app, I forget what the app is. That's part of the thing. Let me write that down. Because these workshops, I'm doing them like this, but I'm also building PowerPoints so that when I do a seminar, it will have all of this information and it'll have it. So it won't be just like these 1 to 2 hour sessions. These will be things that I will make, and it will probably be a long seminar that breaks down all these things when it comes to it. So we're just getting like the overall general stuff, but these are just going to be like the overall general workshop, so that basically people just get the concepts of it. When I start doing the seminars will be a paid thing, but it will not be something that is like crazy expensive. It may be like $25, $50, and you'll get this. When it comes to different assistants, when it comes to, I will have like different tiers of what will be available to people, because it's still me doing the homework for you to provide you with all the information when it's benefits, education benefits, tax benefits, and all that for your state specifically. That's something that I will be charging a little bit extra for, because then it's going to be a specifically tailored information just for you. So assist you with the disability claims, get you the information, and explain to you what you need to do, but then also explain to you what other benefits will come to you whether you reside in this state or that state. And that'll be part of the form that happens. Nobody else is doing this, so If anybody else starts saying they will, they got it from me, plain and simple. So once you have that, right? So you have that and you track the app, you track the migraines, you have the migraines tracked, and that's also evidence that you can use. You can produce that and show like, hey, this is how many times I get migraines. This is the app, I have it, I track it on here. This is what it shows. This is what it's doing. This is how it works. Boom. You got that? There you go. You have that documentation and you have what you need available to be successful. Because now you have the evidence and you show why it is that you get the rating you do, because you deal with them more often. This bothers you more often and stuff like that. That's always influential. But you always have to be honest. Think of what it affects. And that's where I say also writing that down is a good thing for the CMP. Think of how it affects you. Think of it how it doesn't allow you to do things. What does it stop you from doing? That's the same thing with the buddy statements. What does it stop you from doing? I had one person in here one time that they had issues, and I was just joking around because they had back issues, and I was just like, hey, maybe your neighbor has to cut your grass because of the fact that you can't cut your grass because your back hurts and whatever the case may be. And then funny thing was, that was actually the case. And I was just throwing that out there into the wind. And he was like, yeah, well, my neighbor does cut my grass because I'm not able to. I was like, well, then write a buddy statement explaining that he cuts your grass because of the fact that you are not able to cut your grass and it grows high. You don't want to get any fines or anything. So your neighbor goes and cuts your grass to help assist you. That's part of a buddy statement, and that can also help your filing. So now, once you're done with you've completed your CMP exams. You've gone, you've done your CMP exam, you've made your evidence, you got your evidence, you had already submitted everything, but now you have your CMP exam, you went to the CMP exam, you explained how it affects you, what's your best days, what's your worst days, how you went through it, how it affects you, how it affects your family, how it affects you dealing with getting a job or working. All these things need to be explained because it needs to be put into that file so that it paints the entire picture. Remember, these people don't know who you are. They see multiple of yous. There's multiple of yous. Oh, one served in the Army, one served in the Navy, Coast Guard, whatever the case may be. Everybody's story is different. So you have to make sure that you are painting the picture for yourself. Not for anybody else, but for yourself. You are the person explaining, this is what I went through, this is what happened, this is how I got here, this is the process. That's what you have to make sure you're ensuring to do. So once you do that, the VA now receives your stuff. That'll be like step 3, I can't remember it specifically. But you get to that step, right? The VA is now reviewing your information. They are going to go off of your medical records. Remember the ones that you put into a PDF and specified which ones they were. And then you're also going to go into the evidence or any documentation, buddy statements, DBQs, nexus letters, personal statements, all that stuff. They're going to put all that there. Once that's there, it's just like, okay, we got this. Now, what are they going to do? They are going to rate you. What are they going to use? The same thing we were just viewing through the VA. They're going to use the CFR because now they are going to evaluate you off of your statements, your pain level, your range of motion, all that stuff. Because remember, everybody has pain, but everybody doesn't deal with pain the same. So that's something that's important for people to realize. That's why I say when you feel pain, stop. Because you can be hard-headed and be strong as hell and have a high pain tolerance and you can do everything just fine, but you know you're in pain. Other people, they don't have that ability. That's something you need to pay attention to. That's something that you have to put in that process. So when you're going through that, now they're going through that. They've evaluated, they check everything. Now they assign your disability rating. So you've gone through all that process. Now you got the disability rating. Now with the disability rating, what they're going to do is that they're going to determine what percentage you get for all the claims you made. And then you will get your decision letter with the results. Basically, the time frame for that varies. Government shutdown, less workers, less stuff, that varies. So there's no set date. There never has been. There probably never will be. where it tells you, oh, you will get this here. You will get this at this time frame. No. You're going to get your letter, and your letter is going to be a nice little packet, and it's going to tell you everything that they have. And all just like you're going to go through everything you claim. Then it's going to say service connected, not service connected. Rating that you get. You go down that list and you verify everything you filed for, making sure that everything is there, that they didn't miss anything. And then you see what you get service connected for, what you got denied for, what the percentages you got for it. Go through there. You're going through that process and you check it out. You see that there's a couple of things that got denied. So this is one thing that a lot of veterans don't know, is that even though it gets denied, you can appeal that. You can go against what they're saying because maybe you have proof or maybe they got it wrong. It happens. Shit, if you got a VSR that's just approving 85,000 people shit, you got people that is just denying shit too. You're not going to tell me it's a one-sided affair. You're not going to try to tell me that it's just like, oh, everybody just got approved, but nobody just gets straight up denied. I don't want to hear it. It happens both ways. Now, the thing is when you're looking at it like that, you have the documentation and it says, oh, you were not service connected because of this, and that. Or we found evidence, but we didn't find, like, we saw that you have the issue, but there's no evidence that it was service connected. Or whatever the case may be, they will give you the justification there. Veterans need to realize that instead of filing another disability claim for that same thing, they can appeal that. So you have three different types. You have a supplemental case, which is you basically adding extra evidence, basically that maybe they didn't miss, or maybe you didn't add, or maybe you added after the fact. Then there's the higher level review, which is basically somebody else is just going to look over your thing to just check it out, or you go to the Board of Appeals of Veteran Appeals. Three different instances, three different timelines, and it's three different timelines where you will receive your documentation, and on the back, it will give you the information as to how all three are. So all you got to do is flip the page and it'll tell you what supplemental claim does, what a higher level review claim does, and what a Board of Appeals claim does. Three different things, but at the same time, you have to have your documentation, you have to have your information, you have to have basically everything that you need to be successful. Now, once that's there, you're going to have that, and the appeals process is a whole different, that's going to be a different workshop also. Because basically most people don't know what to do, how to do it. And like I said, some people, instead of actually appealing and going through that process, will just take that L and be like, whatever. And then they decide, you know what, I am going to reapply or reclaim this same thing with different information. You could have done the same thing and done that for the previous one, and then you would have gotten the back pay for it. But now, since you did a new intent to file for that same shoulder injury that they said wasn't service connected, even though you had it and they just missed it, now you are starting a new intent to file date, which if you received this stuff in June of 2026, instead of getting back paid to October 5th, today of 2025, you're going to start that process on June of 2026. That will be the effective date for your new shoulder claim. So that's one thing to keep in mind when it comes to the after you get the decision and after you realize, okay, this is here, this is what I got, this is the information they gave me, this is what it says was missing, this is the reason I didn't get it. Also pay attention to where it states why you didn't get the higher rating or why they gave you that rating. Oh, we gave you this rating because you did not fit the requirements to get the 50% rating because of this. And then you understand it was just like, oh, okay, I had this shoulder issue and I was able to move my arm at a 90 degrees and that's when it caused it. But the 90 degrees is what got me this 20%. If it would have been lower than the 90 degrees of me being able to move it, it would have been higher. But now I know that that's the reason why I got that percent. The other thing that's important when it comes to receiving your ratings, know your actual rating percentage. I have a video on that already. It's basically how to do VA math. Easy way to explain it, you are a pizza pie. You're a whole pie, right? You're that pie. When you get that first percentage, you're taking that percentage away from the pie. So if it's 50%, now you only got that half. Whatever other percentage, you keep on taking from that pie. You're 100% pie. With your disability ratings, you are removing pieces of the pie by that percentage. So if you have 100% pie and you got a 50% rating, you now have 50% left of your pie. Meaning if you have another 50% rating, you only have 50% left. So you got to take half of that 50% rating that you had left because you're at 50. So now that puts you at 25%. So I have that video and explains, I know it doesn't make sense why they made it that way. I don't know. I can't tell you. It could have been just as easy as like, hey, if you get to a certain percentage, you're at 100%. But they don't like to do it that way. So that's where you keep that in mind. You have to know what your actual percentage is. The reason I say that it is important to know what your actual percentage is because of the fact that that changes. So let's go back to the CFR. We're at the migraines. We go back to the top of the page and we will scroll down. And here you have the combined ratings table. With the combined ratings table, let me slide this over just a bit. With the combined ratings table, you have the percentages and you have the numbers. As you see, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90. You see those percentages. When you see those percentages, and I will, hold on, give me 1 second. Let's put this into the thing. Write that down also, put that part of the slide, make that a button, combines rating table. So put this here, make sure y'all get this link also. So now you have, that is section 425, which explains the combined ratings table, which is basically how you can do the math. You basically can do your own VA math. Some websites have a calculator, some you can do it yourself, but it's always you are starting with your highest percentage and you are listing them all out like that way, and then you are adding it accordingly. So basically, if you started at 50% and you got another 50%, as you can see, we are at 50% here. You got another 50%, meaning over here, that would give you 75. Oh, 75. So that puts you at 75%, right? So then what that means is, let's say you have another 50% rating. 75, you would drop down to this one and make sure you're at 75 here. Now that you're at 75 and you add another 50, that puts you at 88. So the thing is that most people don't understand is that if you are at anything, basically you are rounding up. When it hits the 5 and up, you're rounding up. Simple math, just rounding up. But you got to realize that if you are at 88%, you are going to get paid at the 90% mark. But you don't have a 90 rating. You're getting paid at the 90 rate, but you have an 88 rating. And that makes a difference when you go back to it. Now, let's say you're at 88. To get to 95, to get you to that 100, you need another 60%. You thought you were at 90, then you might just think you need 50%. Then that throws you all out of whack because it's just like, man, I thought I needed this information, but I didn't get that. So I don't have that number. So that's why it's always important. After you get your evaluation, you see if you're going to file a claim, an appeal or whatever the case, you have to make sure that you know what exactly your percentage is. Once you know exactly what your percentage is, that allows you to way forward to work on what you want to do. Because now you know, oh, okay, I got 100, I got 90%. I'm getting paid at 90%, but I'm only at 85. So in order for me to get to 100, I need to have this or file for secondaries or file for increases that improve it by this amount to get to that point. Because if you're thinking that you're at 90%, but you're only at 85, that's still another 5 different in percentage points that you need to acquire, which you didn't think you needed because you thought you were already over that. So that's why it's important to pay attention to that. And as you continue, you'll do that. And then that's when it goes into the whole process. Do you appeal or whatnot? Now, remember, you have your service-connected claims. You have these service-connected claims. Now you can go ahead and say, you know what? I'm going to go and file for secondaries because this got service-connected. Now you can start another intent to file with your secondaries because you got that 85%. You're getting paid at the 90, but you trying to go up higher because you know you got more ailments. Now that you have the service-connected part, now you can do those secondary, and that can help push you to that 100%. But remember, it's the same process. You still need documentation. You still need diagnosis. You still need either a nexus letter, which a nexus letter isn't necessary because of the fact that it's a secondary. But sometimes, hey, the more documentation you have to prove your diagnosis, your issue, your disability, the better it is and the stronger your case is to not be denied. The less you have, the easier it is for them to be like, look, we didn't find anything. And if you can't provide or give any information against it, they're like, well, they didn't have anything to say against it. So you just leave it there and you're just stuck. Don't do that to yourself. Make sure you educate yourself and make sure you do that correctly. So with all that being said, that's basically you going through the process, you filing your disability claim, you going through the documentation, you doing all that. But at the same time, this is how you can be successful. Now, appeals, no appeals, if you're okay with it, if you're fine, that's all on you. That is always a you issue. This is just to make sure that you understand how to be successful and how to go about it the correct way. To avoid delays, to avoid denials, to avoid any of these issues that may cause a problem, this is where you need to take into effect, and this is what you need to make sure you are doing. Because once you are doing this, you have your medical records, you have your buddy statements, you have your diagnosis, you have your DBQs, you have your nexus letter, buddy, witness statements, you have all that done. Then you have your CMP exam. You're explaining to them what you have, what's going on, what's the worst part, what's the best part. You've filed it completely because you already sent it in. You got the CMP exam. Now you're waiting to see what they say. They tell you, oh, you're service connected for this. You're not service connected for this. You have an issue here. This is why this didn't go through. This is why this is connected. You have all that. You either appeal, you either stay with it. That's on you. You go through the process again. Now it's just, hey, now I'm filing for secondaries. You go through the same process. You still have to file, still have to get the documentation. You file, get your secondaries approved, and then that pushes you higher. You get to 100% P&T, you get more benefits. That's a different thing. Or you can also go TDIU, which is basically the unemployability, but the main difference between that is basically get the same benefits. The only problem is that when you're 100% P&T, you can work and make as much as you want to after being P&T. If you're TDIU, which is tougher to get, still possible, but tougher to get, then from there you are in the process of okay. So question Grip has is, do you recommend switching theories if a first one gets denied, meaning migraine secondary to tinnitus, denied, file again, migraine secondary to PTSD? Now, I don't recommend, like, what you have to, the best way of looking at it, Grip, is that you have to make sure that you have what you need to prove that. Because the thing is if you're saying that your tinnitus caused the migraines, there has to be a link to that. There has to be a showing of that. There has to be that documentation, whether through the DBQ, the diagnosis, or medical studies showing that this is how you have it and this is the reason for it. Now, if you're saying that you got the migraines because of PTSD, you still have to do the same process. You still have to show why it is. Because the thing is basically you are saying that migraines is being caused by something. Now you have to make sure that you can identify it and provide it. With tinnitus is difficult sometimes because the thing is tinnitus can't be proven. We know you have it, but that has to be an instance showing that you had it. But otherwise, we don't know why it's happening. You see what I'm saying? We can show hearing loss, but we can't show that fucking flatlining in our ear that just randomly happens. They can never test for that. So that makes it difficult. When it comes to PTSD, now you have to show that you have diagnosis. You would have to show that through your PTSD, you have gone and been evaluated through a therapist, through a thing, and you've spoken to them about that. You've spoken to them that your PTSD has caused you migraines. That when you wake up after one of those episodes, you end up with a migraine. Stuff like that, that has to be documented through the PTSD. The same way it has to be documented through tinnitus. Tinnitus is hard because the thing is there's no way of showing that you have tinnitus. PTSD is shown. There's reasons for PTSD. There's studies, there's evaluations for it. So when it comes to it, it's just like, is it easier or is it better for you to put it secondary to PTSD? Probably, because you could probably show a better connection that way. But it's more on the evidence and the diagnosis. You see what I'm saying? Because the thing is for tinnitus, for some people, they can get it connected. But then the thing is the tinnitus may lead to something else. So they may have tinnitus, and then tinnitus leads to like, what is it, Meniere's disease or something like that. And it was just like, see, I'm gonna show you right now. So this is, so we're gonna show it through an example, basically using the DBQ, right? Let me see, you should be able to see it that way. So this is showing the DBQ. This is what happens basically when a veteran decides to do ear conditions with the DBQ. These are the different things that show up on that DBQ. See, he doesn't have a current diagnosis, Meniere syndrome, peripheral vestibular disorder, benign part, whatever that one is, chronic otosis externa, chronic supportive otosis media. If it's causing one of these or something like that, that can also lead to like, hey, you may have tinnitus and you have an ear issue, which has led to you having one of these. Now, this is the reason that you are getting the migraines. So then you can end up claiming this as a secondary and the migraine secondary to that off of the tinnitus. Or if you're going off of the PTSD, it was just like the PTSD, severe anxiety, stuff like that, you're medicating, and that's causing the migraines. You just have to make sure that you have the identifiable documentation to show this. And you have to have the diagnosis for it. So that diagnosis has to be there, basically explaining and showing, oh, you have migraines. You are getting medication for migraines. Then it's, how did you get the migraines? Or just like, I think it's attributed to this, but the whole I think doesn't work. That would have to be a doctor saying his migraines are caused because of this ear thing he's dealing with. Whether tinnitus, whether Meniere's, whether anything and stuff like that. You have to make that connection, and that documentation has to be foolproof, basically. Because if it's not foolproof, you have an ear issue, but you're saying it's causing migraines, but there's nothing that shows that it's causing the migraines. So you have to make sure that's where those secondary conditions are good claims, but you also have to do the homework and the diagnosis and the documentation to show that that secondary issue was caused by the primary that you have. So that's you making sure, not that you have to change, because it's not changing theories. It's what can you prove that it's causing the migraines? Because it could be something completely different. But the thing is if you don't have that documentation, the VA isn't going to go with it. So you have to make sure that you have that distinction and you have that documentation showing that. Once you have that documentation showing that, then it's like, oh, okay, he does have migraines that is caused by tinnitus. The tinnitus in his ear, the ringing in his ear has affected him, and it affects him in this way. That may be, hey, could be that. It could be that the tinnitus triggers your PTSD to the point where whatever happened to you, that ringing in your ear causes that, and then that causes a migraine. See what I'm saying? So it can be connected in different ways. You just have to make sure you have the diagnosis and the documentation proving that. Because you can get migraines from tinnitus. but your tinnitus might have been caused by the PTSD. If you got blown up in a vehicle, that left a ringing in your ear, and that could be causing the fucking headaches. See what I'm saying? So it's not changing theories. It's what theory makes sense and what theory can you provide and show that shows, okay, this is why this is happening. This is why I submitted my claim for it. And this is why it's happening. So once you get that, it's easier. The thing is if you don't have that connection, that's when a lot of veterans get denied. But at the same time, you can always appeal it if it gets denied, and then see if you can find more documentation or maybe get a higher level review. Because sometimes, like I said, sometimes these people make errors. The same way I said, same way that guy made 85,000 people just get automatically approved, there's probably somebody doing it that's negatively fucking disapproving shit too. You can't tell me it's not happening otherwise. Because you have to have these people are working on quotas and they have to do a certain amount of numbers, certain amount of time. So if it comes to crunch time, shit, deny, approve, deny, approve, deny, approve. And we're just like, I made my quota for the month. See what I'm saying? So just because you get denied doesn't mean that you are wrong. Make sure that you are looking into the stuff and getting that information to make sense for you. So, and as always, when you have that stuff, it was just like, you have your documentation, you have your results, you have your paperwork. Look at it. Go over it. Go over your medical records again. Yes, and that is also. Thank you, Annette. I was just like Annette also stating that with tinnitus, check to see if your MOS is on the list for tinnitus. There's a list fast letter 10-35 introducing the official duty MOS noise exposure listing. So basically just place that in the search bar and it'll basically give you a list of the documented MOSs that deal with tinnitus. Mechanics, generators, aviation, stuff that you're hearing loud noises all the time, that's what it happens. And that's where it's most likely to do it. And there you have a connecting factor. Not saying it's presumptive, but it kind of is. But you have that listing because then they see it was just like, oh, you were a generator mechanic. So you were listening to engines go all the fucking time. So they're just like, oh, okay. This makes sense. This is why he's dealing with it. So that's why you got to do it that way. But it's like I said, it's depending on how you connect the stuff and how you can show it's connected. If you can't do that, you run into those issues. So that's why it's always important to make sure, like, hey, this is what you're going through. This is how I can prove it. This is what's happening. This is the reason why I'm dealing with this issue, and this issue caused the next issue. Let's see what else. What else do we want to cover? Yeah, because besides that, it's not much else. You always want to make sure if you have to go to the va.gov or go to the website, go to the Vet Aware Project, which is basically our name shortened because it's Veteran Awareness Project, but we're just going with Vet Aware Project. And just go through our website. We have the listing of all the DBQs on our website. We have VA forms on that website, which I'm going to change the look on it, where it's going to change to a list group instead of having it, because I had like an example of the DBQ and an example of the VA form, but that doesn't really help anybody because some of the words are small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be updating that VA forms website or that page by doing it in a way where I'm going to put them in numerical order. So literally 001 will be the first one, 002, then 0, because all of these jumble all over the place. And then they're just like, here's the VA website, MOS noise exposure probabilities. There you go. See, Annette has always been helpful, and I can't thank her enough for being here all the time. And like I said, for being a member also and supporting. She's always assisting. So that's always what you got to do. You look into those things. There's websites, there's information available. There's always information available when it comes to veteran assistance, veterans benefits, veterans resources. There's always stuff there. It's just that for most veterans, they don't know. So that's why I made this website and I made this page basically as a veteran awareness to bring more awareness to the resources that we have available so that they don't try to take them away, but also so that you can hand it to another veteran that may at one point need these resources. I needed these resources. I didn't have a way of finding them. I didn't know. I had to do a whole bunch of digging and research and go through like 85 links on the va.gov site to just find one simple thing. So I wanted to make something easier where it's like, hey, user friendly, you find what you need, you use it, and you're successful. So that way. So that's basically all I have for today. Like I said, these workshops are not going to be super long anymore. We're going to be doing them once a month. We're building up the website and building up our seminars. The seminars, those will be held more often. Those will be set probably on a weekly stage, where it's just going to be a more in-depth look into these topics. But as always, you always look for your information on the va.gov. You go to, if you have any issues, you can reach out via email to the Veteran Awareness Project thing. You can contact us on our website and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible and give you the information or give you the information that you may be requiring. We'll be doing these workshops, like I said, every first Sunday of the month. Every first Sunday of the month. That's when we will be holding these. We are not going to be doing them every Sunday. They will be the first of the month, and that way we will take a specific topic and try to go through it. Like I said, most of these will be a generalized outlook on these things, and we'll pick these topics. Seminars will be a in-depth program, I would say, but that one, it will be with digital downloads so you can have checklists. You'll have all that stuff prepared for you, and that's how we're going to go and move forward. So that way you have an in-depth procedure of how you go about doing this, how you know what you need to do, and you can do it in a successful manner. So that way you don't have to go out of your way to pay somebody else to do it when it's something you can do yourself, or you can learn and appreciate to do it. So that way you understand the workings of being successful when filing your disability claim, when getting entitlements, and using all that. So we'll continue to do topics. And as always, once this video is done, if you haven't liked it already, like it, try to share it to other veterans. If you can, leave a comment on here so that it pushes it out to more people, so that people see that you got some value off of it, and I hope you did. If you didn't, put that in the comments also. It's just like an AAR, after action review. Just let me know what you think, what topics you may want to cover, what you may do, so that way we can start building more stuff for veterans in a specific manner, so that way I know what's needed more by veterans. Like I said, you can always check our website, go to the VSOs, talk to the DAV, talk to the Veteran of Foreign Wars, talk to the American Legion, talk to all these free resources that can help you, assist you, and guide you in the proper way. Make sure to check out the Code of Federal Regulations, Title 38, Chapter 1. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. Yes. Exactly. That we cover that. You always pay attention to what that says, because it'll tell you why you got that rating, why you didn't get the next rating. That's something that basically helps you, because if you know you have that and maybe you didn't have that piece of evidence or you didn't have that documentation, now you know, hey, I can file for an increase. This is what I was missing. I can use this to get a higher rating. So, as always, be good to one another. Take care of one another. Look out for one another. Love one another. Stay marvelous while doing it, y'all. I am Just Cruz. This has been our Veteran Awareness Project workshop. We do these every Sunday. First Sunday. Well, we don't do these every Sunday. We do these every first Sunday of the month. We do these on specific topics. Once the website keeps on growing and we keep on pushing these out, we are working on videos that are just going to cover diagnostic codes and specify what they are and what they do. We will get back to doing our little did you know videos and our little quick tips also. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, so a lot of the time isn't being put into making sure this is operating, because there's too much going on in the world right now that needs a bit more attention than this. But as always, I'm here to help veterans. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you tuning in. I will catch you on the next one. And this is the Veteran Awareness Project. Have a good Sunday. Have a good rest of your week. See you next month. Peace. And as always, thank you for being here. Can't say that enough. Thank you.